Well, welcome back to the Ropes Family Podcast. We are finishing up our Fruit of the Spirit series. This has been a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. It's like when we came up with this, I was like, this will be nice. We'll have some direction. But it's a little harder than I thought it was, at least for me. Courtney, you've actually done really well with coming up with, the right ways to understand these fruits of the Spirit in practical ways. It's been nice.
I can do practicality. It's just not really deep into the biblical. I say practical things and then you follow it up with all the biblical.
Oh, that's good. Hopefully one of us can do one of those things. And I do apologize if I do sound like I have a smoker's cough at some point. It's because I'm still getting over pneumonia and or walking pneumonia. I don't know if there's a difference. One you can walk around, one you can't. I don't know.
I guess.
I don't know, whatever that means. But so today we're talking about self-control. So Courtney, can you define self-control for us?
Self-control is the ability to control oneself, in particular, one's emotions and desires, or the expression of them in one's behavior, especially in difficult situations.
I think that this is a problem for everybody. I think everybody can struggle with self-control for some things. And I think you have a good list here that at least somebody will struggle in one of these areas. I've probably struggled with a couple of these. Self-control is it's discipline. And, it almost kind of goes back to the podcast we just did last time about taking the yoke upon, take Jesus's yoke upon yourself and let him take the reins and control of your life. And I think that helps with self-control as well, as if you're being obedient to Christ and to his word, letting his word dwell within you. I think that self-control kind of comes naturally, or maybe not naturally, but maybe a little bit more easily. So can you tell us what are the things that you listed off for self-control? You can list one and then kind of your example, and then I can respond to that a little bit.
Well, I know these are just different places that I would think people have problems with self-control. And one is like your passions, your sports, or I do photography, and Donovan does too. And sometimes we get off on that, talking, and we lose the meeting because we've been talking about that, or crafting, or cars, or whatever you do. You can show little to no self-control doing those things.
Yeah, you can kind of hyper focus on something and get super involved in the thing, and it starts to take over your life.
And if you're spending more time on that than you are anything else, well, you're lacking self-control in that area.
Yeah. I know in the sports era, like during football season and basketball season, it hasn't been a problem this year or the year before, because I kind of caught it a couple years ago. But I realized that, if Tech lost or if the Chiefs lost, then my day would just be ruined, and I would be a jerk. I would not be able to control my emotions, or I couldn't control myself, because of whatever these other people are doing, losing games or whatever. I just get so wrapped up in that. And that's one area that I had to work on to make sure that I was not being a jerk to my family and be able to still enjoy sports without letting that affect me so much. I had to learn the self-control of it doesn't matter if they lose. Yeah. This does not matter. It does not change anything about who I am because they lose, so it shouldn't affect how I treat anybody in my household.
It's funny you said that, because we were watching football on Sunday night and some guy missed a tackle, and I was like, oh, he should have made that. And Allie was like, really? Football's not about tackling people. It's about having fun and learning the game. And Ben was like, yeah, go tell those NFL players that, Allie.
It's about tackling people.
It's about tackling people. He missed the tackle.
Those guys get paid to tackle people.
It just made us laugh because... Oh, yes.
Sorry, there's that smoker's cough.
I got your smokers. Smokers laugh, cough. Another place of self-control is hard is in your appetite. And not just for food.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't show a lot of self-control there sometimes, but also the other things, money, anything you have a big appetite for.
Yeah, I think that I'm the same way. You guys have seen me. Like, people know I struggle eating cookies in the middle of the night. That's my thing. Is I'll stay up until all my family goes to sleep, and then I'll
eat some cookies.
Eat some cookies and milk, and then I'll wake up in the next morning. I'm like, man, I'm not feeling that great. I wonder what happened. It's because I ate those milk cookies
Yeah.
at 10 o'clock at night, and I shouldn't have, but I had an appetite.
Yeah. Wanted something
I wasn't
sweet.
able to control myself on that.
I know that several people I know have a large appetite for money.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1 Timothy 6:10, it says, "For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil." People misquote that all the time and say money is, but it's the love of money.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people personally that are so eager for money, and they have, wandered from the faith. They have done all kinds of things to earn money, and they've
Yeah,
following
you.
Yeah, they've separated themselves from their families. They've, done all kinds of things, and that right there is showing no self-control.
Yeah, I think that and money, it's a big issue for a lot of people. Like the need for it is there,
Right?
And so it's just like the same thing with food. Like we have to have food to survive. We have to have money to live
Function,
a life,
yeah.
to function, right? And so sometimes those things can kind of get out of hand. Like I need so much of this,
Right.
so I can be comfortable, so I can live, and sometimes those things can get in the way of our relationship with God and our relationship with our families, for sure, if we're not self-controlled with that. Also, I think you're going to cover this in a minute, is the overuse of money, and I'll let you cover that here in a second. But things like that can change it, can change a life way worse than anything else, for sure.
And going along with what you said, debt, impulses. I know I like to shop. I mean, not out in public, but I like to shop online. And if I'm not careful, I'm just spending because I think it's cute, or I think, I need a 500 sweatshirt or whatever. That's showing no self-control.
Right.
I can't put more on my credit card than I can pay for.
Yeah.
Because that puts you in a place where shopping is taking over your life.
And then it turns into like you have to use the credit card to survive.
Right.
Because you're having to pay all of the credit cards off, and then you're living on the credit cards. And so it's just this endless cycle that you can get there so fast.
Right.
And so those are dangerous things. You have to be self-disciplined and self-controlled over, and that's a tough thing that I think our culture struggles with, spending more than we have just to kind of keep up with the status quo, and that's tough, and putting our kids in sports that cost a lot of money to do, then you have to buy a hotel room every other weekend. And then it just kind of adds up, and those kind of things happen that it takes self-control and discipline to be able to plan for those things, as well as, not just rely on the piece of plastic in your back pocket.
I like the word self-discipline too.
Yeah.
Goes hand in hand with self-control. And then we just did the gentleness podcast and anger.
Yeah.
You have to show self-control. You have to calm yourself down. You have to respond to someone in a gentle manner, because like I said, then it's easier to respond to someone or react to someone and hurt them back, or maybe not even hurt them, but just say something like quickly to get a word in, kind of thing.
Yeah. Quick to jab instead of responding gently. And I think a lot of people struggle with anger than you realize. Like I know I did early on in my teenage life. I guess I struggled with anger. I was just mad. I could be triggered really easily, and luckily I've grown out of it a little bit. And then sometimes a 5-year-old will bring it right back out of me, and I'm like, dude, you got to get. But and then I've caught myself, keep it under control here. You've got to be a good example here for your kids of how to deal with anger. It's okay to be angry, but you've got to understand how to control yourself when you're angry. And that's an important thing that I had to learn how to rely on God for those things, to rely on God for, hey, just to bring me out of the moment, put me in perspective. And that's how I've learned how to have self-control when I'm angry.
Actually it's last year, Allie never bit anyone until Carter started making her mad last year at 5-6 years old. and she started biting him. She would get so angry. She would just reach out and bite him. He has a scar on his arm where she broke skin, and you can see all of her teeth marks. And we had to start telling her like that's not okay. You can be angry with him. That's fine, but you have to keep it under control. That was weird to have your 5-year-old start biting.
No,
but
I mean, I told Emerson, I think I told Emerson that. She's like, Dad, you're making me mad. And I'm mad. And I'm like, I'm not afraid of you being mad, girl.
Yeah.
You're going to have to learn how to deal with that anger.
You can be mad.
Be mad all you want, but I'm not afraid of that. And you're going to have to learn how to deal with that. You know, just because you're mad doesn't mean I'm going to change what I'm saying. You know, just
I'll have to tell you.
You're just going to have to learn how to deal with it. Learn the self-control of what to do when you're angry.
I like Proverbs 25:28, where it says, like a city whose walls are broken, there is a person who lacks self-control. So we all know the cities in the Bible were defended by walls. And I was telling my kids this the other day, and I was like Jericho, because that's one of the ones they really know a lot about. And when Jericho's walls fell, nothing kept people out.
Yeah.
Like, and the same thing, if you're showing no self-control, you're letting the devil come in.
Letting whatever in.
Yeah. You're letting something else control you because you are not
in control.
And where are we going to get control? The Holy Spirit.
The Holy Spirit. Again. Taking Jesus' yoke upon yourself.
Yes. Letting Jesus dwell in you.
Letting Jesus' word dwell within you richly. Yeah.
Yes.
I think that those are, like we said, all these fruits of the Spirit are related. You know, it's because they're all coming from the same one. You know, and it's self-control is a big deal when it comes to practicing your faith. It becomes, it's not actually self-control at that point. It's Jesus controlling you, which is like we said, that's so hard to do because you've got to give up control. You know, you like, what is a yoke? Like, is the yoke the thing that you put in a horse's mouth to steer them?
No, like on the oxen, those giant wooden things.
Okay. Yeah. To control where they're going.
Yeah.
You know, like, we don't want to be controlled. We want to do what we want to do, right? And doing that, that's actually not practicing self-control. That's indulging in all these things that we have, you know, and I think practicing self-control is allowing Jesus to control us instead.
Jesus gives us the ability to practice all of the fruit of the Spirit. And if we're letting his word dwell within us, then we can, and it's not as hard as it would be in our own human nature.
Yeah. It goes against everything that we want to do.
Yeah.
You know, to be controlled. But when you look at it as Jesus controlling you, it's not really control. It's operating out of gratitude. It's operating out of the image you were created in. It's operating within the purpose that you were created for. And that's so freeing. That's the difference in practicing obedience to Christ. Is it's freedom instead of, you know, we think we have freedom in all of these things of the world, but all of those things are just enslaving us more and more. We've got to. It's so backwards and countercultural that we're allowing Jesus to give us freedom by giving him control of our life.
I follow an ex-Satanist on Instagram.
Nice.
And she said that she went into this church. I don't really know why she was in this church, but she said these people were coming up and hugging her, welcoming her into their church. And she was like, if you only knew the things I've said about you, if you only knew what I've said about your God, you know, you would hate me. And so she went back another week and she finally looked at someone and was like, I don't want to be here. I hate your God. I hate you. And she said this lady looked at her and was like, well, I love you. And she said she just lost it right there in the church and was like sobbing uncontrollably. And she was like, that's everything that Satanism is against. Like, Satanism isn't forgiving and loving and kind. And she was like, and that's when she turned her life over to Jesus that same day. And that it was crazy to me reading her story.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're saying. Jesus isn't taking over and controlling us like Satanism or whatever. They want control. Jesus is guiding us. And he does it for our best interest. He knows he made us, or God made us, and perfect and for
created
a
us
certain
for a purpose.
purpose. Yeah.
For a plan that he has for us.
So that's cool.
And our freedom is operating in that plan,
Mm-hmm.
which is awesome. You got anything else?
Nope, just the family challenge.
So I guess you guys could probably guess what the family challenge is practice self-control. Let Jesus take the reins in your life and see how freeing that can be. Give him the control over your anger, over your impulses, over your shopping, over your appetites, over your passions. Give him control over all of those things and watch the freedom that you'll get out of that from Jesus taking control instead of you trying to hold on to those things and overindulging in those things. Mm-hmm. All right, that's all we got this week. That's all we got for the Fruit of the Spirit series. It's been a pleasure going through these series, and thank you guys for being patient with us while I was sick and couldn't record a podcast because I couldn't breathe or talk. So we will have another podcast for you in a couple days or weeks or whenever this comes out. I think probably a week after this one comes out, we'll have another one. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.